Welcome to Draw Tip Tuesday. Here's your weekly dose of inspiration to build a creative habit, one drawing at a time. Brought to you by Sketchbook Skool. Hi, welcome to Draw Tip Tuesday. Sketchbooks come in all sizes and in all shapes and in all brands. And because I get a lot of questions about what sketchbook I use, I thought I could dedicate today's Draw Tip Tuesday video to the subject. I hate to disappoint you, but I don't use one particular brand or format. I use sketchbooks for my daily drawings, kind of like art journals. And I really like to change format and change brand every time that I start a new sketchbook. I really love that point when you get to the last few pages of a sketchbook, and it's not just the feeling of satisfaction that you have filled the whole sketchbook, but it's also the anticipation of picking a new sketchbook and starting that one as well. It's a little bit scary, but it's also very exciting. And choosing the format, the size, and the paper, that's really part of the excitement. By the time that I get to the end of a sketchbook and filled it completely almost, I will just be getting used to, say, the portrait format. And then I want to challenge myself and choose a landscape format or a square-sized sketchbook. And depending on the amount of the pages and also on my drawing frequency, of course, I generally take 1 or 2 months to fill a sketchbook. So then when I know that I will be traveling a lot that month, I will choose a smaller sketchbook. When I think I should practice big gestures and challenge myself to make larger drawings, I will choose a larger sketchbook. I often don't go larger than A4, just for the practical reason that I want to, take it with me outside of my home or my studio. So it has to fit in my bag. And if I don't have a large bag with me and just a small purse, I always have my tiny sketchbook that I can throw in, just along with one pen or a pencil, and I am happy. You just never really know when a sketch opportunity strikes, and then you really don't want to be without pen and paper, do you? It's not only the format that I like changing up each time I start a new sketchbook. It's also the surface of the paper that makes a huge difference in the way you work. Watercolor paper, of course, is great for watercoloring and painting, but I also use watercolors in sketchbooks that don't necessarily have watercolor paper in them. As long as the paper is heavy enough, I'm pretty fine with it. It will hold the paint and maybe, it will buckle a little bit, the pages will buckle, but I don't really mind personally. I kind of like it when it happens because the sketchbook lives a little. Choosing a different type of sketchbook and getting used to its paper forces me to experiment with my tools. And then suddenly the pen that was a favorite to work with in the previous sketchbook might not be ideal for this next one. So when the paper is very smooth, the ink and the paint will sort of lay on top of it rather than being soaked up by the paper. So every time I think I know a medium, I am surprised by it, just because it can behave completely different because of the paper. It's quite fantastic because this way you're never done exploring, and I really like that. As I said, I am not hooked to a certain brand or whatever, but I sure do have a few favorites. So here they are, and they are in random order. Hanemühle Nostalgie. It comes in many sizes and has very smooth paper, which is great for pen lines, but also for color pencils and even watercolor, although the paint behaves completely different than on watercolor paper. Hanemühle also has watercolor paper sketchbooks. The paper has a bit of a texture. I like it when the paper doesn't have too much tooth, like this one. They come in portrait and in landscape format and in all sizes. They remind me a little bit of the Moleskine watercolor sketchbook. The paper has a really nice texture, and many people use this smaller sized landscape format for traveling. It's compact, but because of the landscape format, you still have a great amount of space to work on. These watercolor sketchbooks from Moleskine come in all sizes. I also like the sketchbooks from Moleskine that are just sketchbook paper. paper is quite smooth, great for pens, ink, color pencils. It holds watercolor well, and the pages are a little bit off-white, maybe yellowish. Some people like it, some people don't. I just finished this one. It's a handbook, Travelogue. I never really understand this brand name, but I think it's handbook. They make beautiful books with a linen cover and with really great watercolor paper. And I like the square format. Of course, it's perfect for Instagram. But when you open it up and you work on a double page, it's a nice landscape format to work on. Stillman & Byrne has a range of sketchbook types, most of them suitable for all kinds of mixed media. They have a really nice soft cover. The feel to it is really nice, but I actually prefer the hardcovers. And last but definitely not least, Sea White of Brighton. Very affordable sketchbooks, hardcover, heavyweight paper that takes mixed media and paint. They come in all sizes and in all formats, and they even have a watercolor sketchbook line right now. I haven't tried it yet, but I have one right here, so I might dive into it very soon. As you can see, I never use ring-bound sketchbooks, so I can't really give you any advice on those, but for the paper, you know, it's the same. I prefer using sturdy hardcover sketchbooks that will survive weeks of getting in and out of my bag. They need to open up flat so I can draw double pages easily. And I want to be able to hold the sketchbook on my lap or even stand up drawing in it. So it's really about your personal use of the sketchbook that helps you choose a sketchbook. So here's a tip. Don't go crazy over choosing a sketchbook. Just pick one. Next time, pick another one. Draw a lot, because only then you can learn what your preferences are, what fits your style, how your favorite tools work best for you. And if you're a few pages into a sketchbook and you don't really like it, switch tools. Try different pens, paint, mix your media, and you might discover a whole new way of working actually. Sometimes it can happen that after trying this, the sketchbook still doesn't really make you happy. The conclusion might be that you and the sketchbook just aren't a good match. Sometimes it happens. Don't worry about it. Put it aside. Start a sketchbook that does spark inspiration. But only do it if you really, really tried. Otherwise, you'll end up with many starts and a lot of unfinished business, and that could leave you frustrated. Well, that's enough babbling. Open your sketchbook and start drawing. I will see you next week when I'll have another draw tip for you. And subscribe to this channel so you won't miss next week's tip. See you then. Bye.